Hello world. Today we will learn about functions in Python. So tighten the seatbelts of your curiosity ship because you are going to be taken on an escapade of knowledge. Also, contents of this video with timestamps is showing on your screen and also given in description. If you are here for a particular topic, quickly jump to that using timestamps provided. We are going to start. What is a function in programming? Functions. A function is a block of organized, reusable code that is used to perform a single, related action. Different programming languages name them differently, for example, functions, methods, subroutines, procedures, etc. Pause this video and give this slide a read to understand it better. Okay. That was speedy and pretty advanced to start with. Let's understand why we need them before understanding what are they. Wisdom for life. Subscribe for more wisdom. Why we need functions. Why need functions? Because they makes our program easier to read, write and fix. Improves readability of our code. Save us from writing same code multiple times. Reduces size of main code file. And many more reasons, but these are most common and summed up reasons. Pause the video and give these points a read to understand them better. This clip you just show with upbeat music was source code of print function in Python. This 3,000 plus lines of code is what runs in background when you print a simple string like hello world. Imaging writing this every time can be dead tiring, huh? I guess you now understand why we need functions. Let's articulate it then. Why we need functions. Why need functions? We need functions to make our program easier to read, write, fix and less repetitive. By moving block of code written to perform a specific task inside them. When you need to perform that task multiple times, just call the function dedicated to handling that task. Pause this video and give it a read to understand it better. What exactly are functions? In layman terms, functions are block of code dedicated to perform a specific task which we can call whenever necessary. Mostly we call them when we need to perform same task multiple times. Give this video a pause and read this slide yourself to understand it better. Note: in this video we will learn about only basics of functions in Python. This will include defining a function, calling it and passing arguments. We will learn about built-in functions, importing a function, object-oriented programming, Python libraries, etc. in video coming super soon. Types of functions. Types of functions in Python. Built-in functions. Functions that comes pre-installed when you download Python on your system. Example: print function, range function, etc. User-defined functions. Functions that are created by user to perform a specific task and help them out. We will stick to these in this video. Anonymous functions. Functions that don't have a name and are not created using Python's standard function defining keyword, def. Give this video a pause and read this slide yourself to understand it better. We are now well equipped with basic knowledge to start on defining a function, calling it, and passing information to it. Defining a function. Defining a function in Python. A function in Python has 5 main parts. First is def keyword. Second is function name with parentheses. Third is parameter in those parentheses. Fourth is task of function. Fifth is return keyword followed by value which function has to return. Let's learn about them one by one. Give this video a pause and read this slide yourself to understand it better. Defining a function in Python. Def keyword. When we use this we tell Python we are creating a function. After def keyword, we write function name followed by parentheses. Inside parentheses, we put one or more parameter. A parameter is a must-have information that function needs to do its job. After parentheses, we put colon. Anything intended after colon is considered inside function. Task of function is intended and written after colon. The task of function can be anything making a simple string like hello, username, and returning it, or performing complex mathematical calculations or running a conditional check and then returning a value. The value returned after function has performed its task is stored inside a variable, and that variable is used within return statement. The return statement sends this value to line where this function is called. Remember to play back or give this slide a pause to read it. This helps understand better. I believe you must have read this slide till now, because we are now going to learn about how to call a function. We now know about what is function, why we need them, how to define a function, but what to do when we want to use that function. When we want to use a function, we call it. This is called function call. Let's learn more about it. Calling a function. Calling a function in Python. We call a function in Python using the function's name followed by parentheses. Within parentheses, we pass argument. An argument is information which we pass to function to do its job. The number of arguments passed to a function is equal to number of parameters defined while creating that function. Function name with parentheses and arguments altogether is called a function call. Python stores return value of a function at the line where the function call is made. This is why we store function call inside a variable. We can then perform any action with that variable. Here, we simply print it. Pause this video and give it a read to understand it better. We now know how to define a function and call it. Let's run this function and see its output to check whether function did its job correctly. Let's run the function greet user. It has a simple task of printing a simple string, hello, username. Here, username is parameter. Information required by function to do its job. Greet user with chuck inside parenthesis is a function call. We store this function call inside variable a to store function's return value. We then print return value. We expect function to print a simple string like hello, chuck. Let's see if function do this. Yeah. Function has produced very clear and neatly formatted string, just like we expected it to be. We can now use this function whenever we need to greet a user. Yes. You have more simpler ways to greet user, but this was just a primitive example of function. Remember print function source code. Haha. Clearing. Common. Misconceptions. Clearing first common misconception with functions. What is the difference between parameters and arguments? Both are must-have information that function needs to do its job. But parameter is listed during definition of function and argument is listed during function call. You will often see parameters and argument used interchangeably because they convey almost same meaning. But for the sake of knowing actual meaning and not get confused when working with other programmers on a project, remember this. Also give this slide a read to understand the difference better. Second common misconception. When to use return statement in a function. Both functions shown on your screen are given a task to print a simple string like hello, username. And when we run both these functions, after calling them, they produce same output. But in one we have used return statement whereas in other we had not. This raises the question is when to use return statement in function. Clearing second common misconception. When to use return in functions. Use return when you only need return value which Python generated after performing its task. And do not use return when you want to perform action on that return value inside function. Doing so will cause a type error. Please pause the video and read this slide to understand this difference better. Code to explain when to use return and when not to use return. Here, we define a function add, which adds any two numbers given to it. We store some of these two numbers in a variable. Function returns this value, using return statement, at the line where function is called. We store this return value in a variable, sum1. We then print sum of sum 1 and 6. We expect final output to be 10. We then defined another function, also called add. This function's task is also to add two numbers. But instead of returning the sum as a value, it prints it. We store this function's call in a variable. The line where this function's call is made, Python will print 10 there. Because arguments provided by us are 6 and 4. This will be stored in variable sum1. We then tries to perform further action with this sum. But this causes a type error, because the sum is not returned as a value, on which we can perform any further action. This is because of not using return statement. Let's run this code to check if our assumptions are right. You can clearly see that traceback call tell us that a type error has occurred at line 12, where we try to print sum of sum 1 and 8. Sum 1 is the variable holding function call of add in which we didn't use return. Give this video a pause and try to understand this function's code and output to understand more clearly when to use return and when not to use return. Thank you. This was it from today's video. In next video, we will work with functions and dive further in our understanding of functions. So, stay tuned. Also, check out Programming in Python playlist, showing on your screen. Hit like and subscribe if you learned something from this video. Also, don't forget to comment, give feedback or just random interact. Wish you a great day, love and respect.